how did you decide on your pricing? It's so good. Like it's so good.
I was gonna say too, it's why you should do SEO and Google ads and Facebook ads and websites and do different things too, because it's just like investing, you really want to be diversified. You don't.
We try to really help our partners because we want them to be, taken care of, and we try to meet all their needs in-house the best we can.
All right, everybody, welcome to another interview on the channel here. We're super excited. I'm personally very excited to have Eric and David from Agency Elevation, one of the top white label providers for agencies everywhere with 100% North American fulfillment. It's very unique, and they actually recently hit the Inc. 5000. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty cool. And not even just the Inc. 5000, like you weren't 4999, you were like the top quarter of the 5000. So one of the nation's fastest growing companies right here, and the two partners here to discuss all things white label fulfillment today. Guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Yes, thanks, Keaton. Super excited.
Yeah, of course. So why don't I want to start with a little background on both of you guys, because like just in my experience using Agency Elevation, we haven't been partnered for a really long time, but over the last few months, it's obvious that you guys know what you're doing, like very systematized, very put together company, not only on the systems, like working with your partners, which are agencies, but also in the systems of actually, running the ads, doing the SEO, all those kinds of things that you provide. So let's hear, how did you get to this point where you have everything dialed in so well?
Sure. So long story short, I'll try to make this short without going into the weeds too deep. Mm-hmm. Eric and I met many, many years ago. We both worked at an agency together, and he was the, paid ads director. I was the SEO director. And actually they created like an overall digital marketing director position, and they ended up going with Eric over me. And I ended up quitting because I was like, I just like my path of progression was gone. Eric, beat me out for this position, but it was never personal. It was just like, it was one of those things where Eric and I had always jived really well together because I handled SEO and he handled the paid ad side of everything. And we, stayed friends and stayed in touch. And I went on to work for, and I ran several other agencies, after that. Quite a few of them got acquired, in the past, 10, 15 years. And then I just started getting clients on the side, and, I started my own thing. And then I was like, dude, all my clients are asking for paid ads. And I'm like, I only do SEO. And they're like, well, you need to do that, or we're going to start going with another agency who offers both, blah, blah, blah. So I kept hounding Eric. And finally, after an amount of time, he was like, all right, we'll work together on some projects. And then things just kind of naturally shifted to white label because, we had direct clients that we were doing work for, getting great results. But because of all the contacts him and I have had over the years and all the agency experience we have, we were getting people who run agencies coming to us saying, guys, I just need help fulfilling. Like, nobody can do it right. Can you help us? And the white label kind of took its own shape and form. And then it just snowballed. And we decided, several years back, I don't remember the exact timeline, to pivot just to purely white label. We don't take any more direct client work. We just do white label. And it's been one of the best decisions we've ever made. So I want to say white label kind of found us. We never like had some, inclination to go into it. It just found us and we ran with it. And because of our agency experience together, it just worked so well. So we've divided the company up the same way. I run and oversee the SEO side. Eric oversees everything on paid ads. And it's been a tremendous partnership. And obviously the company's growing because we have an amazing team, of course. But everything just kind of works in synergy. So that's cool. The long story.
Anything to add to that, Eric?
Pretty well said. Yeah, I think that summed it up. The white label thing too, I think has worked out well because having worked in agencies, so we understand what agencies like. Of course, we are an agency ourselves, but having worked in more traditional agencies, we understand what traditional agencies are facing, which has really helped us properly shape our offerings and how we go about what we do, because we know the pain points an agency owner is experiencing who is working with direct clients. So that's been helpful. And then I think, like David said, just being able to offer SEO and ads, and then also now white label website design and development. We just launched, and TikTok ads, a new service this year. So Being able to get all of that under, provide all of that under one roof has been really helpful for the agencies that partner with us, because they don't have to worry, they don't have to worry about where they're going to go for SEO if they're with us for Facebook ads or something, right? So, um, and then lastly, just like David said, his background being an SEO and mine in paid ads really made it a good pairing, because we were able to just kind of take those different, we were able to specialize in both. Whereas a lot of, with like equivalently, a lot of companies that offer multiple services, they're either like a jack of all trades, master of none, or they offer multiple services, but they only specialize in like one of them really, right? But for us, truly, it's a specialization in SEO and ads. And about half of our revenue is SEO driven, half is ads driven.
Cool.
So we've been fortunate too in that way to be very, could really break us apart into two companies if you wanted. So that allows us to provide really high quality services on both fronts.
Yeah, very cool. And for those listening, or like, I mean, a lot of the audience listening are, beginner to intermediate agency owners. I started like, honestly, for the longest time was like, no, these white label companies, like, I just can't foresee them caring about my clients as much as I care about them. Like, is there actually something to this? And I just sort of shunned it for a long time. And then I had a friend who was, 10 times more successful than I am, recommend you guys. And I was like, oh, well, may as well give it a shot. And, I was 3 years into my agency at that point, and we had the revenue to do it. Who do you guys work with? Who's like the best fit for agency elevation?
You want me to go, Eric, or do you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that, the best fit is somebody who is wanting to scale and grow their agency without worrying about the fulfillment from day to day, right? So this is where we commonly see agency owners get into trouble is, first off, they want to be the CEO and they want to have like this huge company with all this staff. Not wrong to do that, right? There's a lot of agencies that have in-house staff and they're doing well, but it's a nightmare, right? It's a management problem. You have to have staff to manage the staff. You have to have bonuses and raises and all this stuff. So there's a myriad of reasons of why going in-house is not ideal, but also the big thing is that you end up finding yourself just so focused on working in the agency that you can't work on the agency to grow it and scale it. Okay. And so for us, the perfect partner is one who's willing to let go of the reins on the fulfillment. It doesn't mean you let go of control, because you still have control over everything that's delivered, right? Because you're going to work with our team, and our team will make sure that we fulfill to your standards and to your SOPs. But you don't want to be somebody who's micromanaging the ads on a daily basis. Like, hey, let's try this image, right? Like that's not a good use of the agency owner's time. They should be wanting to scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely think that that's probably the best role, is somebody willing to let go of the reins in that regard.
Got it. Eric, anything to add to that?
No, well, one thing, Keaton, you mentioned about like white label with us, that's like, there are a lot of other white label companies who are set up differently than us. And what I mean by that is like and there's nothing wrong with like overseas fulfillment, but the challenge it creates if you are in North America, for example, is you're typically unable to communicate with a white label provider during your business hours. And so sometimes, quality and things get lost in translation if the team's overseas. So all of our team members are full-time in the United States, which has been big for us. So like, that's where like, again, white label can sometimes mean like, oh, maybe that wouldn't be a great fit. Fortunately, there are some white label companies out there that aren't great. That's one of the reasons we've been so successful, is because we are different in all the ways that we feel like others have been failing, doing things right, improperly. The other thing I'll note is that and you kind of alluded to this, Keaton, but there's this fallacy of like, oh, if I hire in-house or internally, they'll care more, right? They'll care more than like the white label provider would. But we see so many agencies that come to us where they have a key team member, key employee or employees just put in their 2-week notice and they're scrambling. Like at the end of the day, whether you have in-house team members or not, like if you have in-house team members, like, unless they're going to stay with you for the rest of their lives, and for that to be true and for you to retain really good talent, you're often having to, you're going to have to pay them a lot of money. They're going to want good benefits. Do you offer health insurance yet as an agency? Do you offer a 401k? Or, can you pay them raises? Can you cover the payroll taxes? Can you do all this? So, the irony though is we have to deal with all of that because we can't white label our own stuff, right? So we're exclusively in-house, but that's our problem, not yours. So
yeah.
you know, and there's also too, I should note, like we hear sometimes, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but it's related to what you asked, Keaton. So sometimes we hear too, like, oh, you know, maybe I'll start off white labeling because I only have a few clients, maybe it can help me get started. And then eventually I want to go in-house. Like we see, and I just kind of alluded to this as well, but we have some huge clients that have let go. I mean, we don't like this to happen, but let go their entire department, and they've had it with in-house employees. There's many headaches, which I mentioned. There's many I didn't mention, and they turn everything over to us. So white label isn't just like whether you have one client or 10, you could have 400. We have agencies over 400 ad accounts with us, for example. So it's a path from zero all the way to wherever you want to go. And then in terms of best fit, even David shared some great stuff. And I would just say, especially as you start to grow as an agency, like the best fit with us is having good account managers in place, because with us being behind the scenes, like white label, so to speak, we're not interfacing with the direct end client. So it is important that you actually do have some good team members in-house, or at least just maybe you're white labeling elsewhere to do those things. And then just the other thing would be, you know, just properly setting expectations as an agency. Like that's where we see most agencies that fail is their clients are just not good clients. They're desperate. Like, you know, if they don't get a Facebook lead today, they're not eating dinner that night kind of thing. Like usually you want to be seeking out businesses to do marketing for that are already successful. Like they don't need marketing per se. It's just like that will make them more successful. They're just generally more stable clients, easier to work with.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lot of things to share there, but I'll stop there.
No, that's great. And if somebody like, let's say last week, I decided I'm going to start my own agency. I don't have any capital. I don't have any experience really, maybe a little bit of marketing skill, but maybe nothing. I've just watched a few videos on the agency model. At what point should I come to you guys? As soon as I get my first client, or should I wait until I have a few?
So we have $1,000 a month minimum on the low end, like to get in the door kind of. So you could have one client, but you would need to pay $1,000 a month for us to manage it, which some do, believe it or not. And, you know, it's not meant for them to do that forever. It's really just for like the first month until they can add a few more clients. So if you want to pay our, you know, our normal rate, so to speak, and not have to pay extra to work with us, and you'd want at least 3 clients, or not even 3 clients, just 3 services. So like local SEO, as of the time of this recording, is $3.99 a month. Google and Facebook ads are as well, if you have between 1 to 3 clients on the ad side. So if you had like 1 SEO, 1 Google, 1 Facebook, there you go, you're over 1,000. So however you get over 1,000. So no, it's not too early. The reason we have that 1,000 minimum in place is just because we didn't used to, but we used to just get, sometimes we would just get chewed up because of, meaning like if you come to us with only 1 account and you're only paying us $3.99 a month, given that we are in the US, like we have a very expensive payroll, we get very deeply integrated with you as an agency, like you have Slack access to us, new calls as needed. So it's just, we can just have trouble if you have 1 client with us at $3.99. Like we can lose money quickly on that. So we have to have just like a sufficient level of business to partner, if that makes sense. But that's it. That's the only barrier. So as long as you can get to that 1,000, which should be able to be attained quickly, if not immediately, we can do it.
That makes sense. It's cool to hear it from your end, because just looking at it, I thought, okay, they're trying to, you know, block out the beginners, but really it's just a business decision where you're like, we have to make $1,000 a month minimum from this client for it to even be worth the time that we're putting into the relationship.
Right. Because we also don't charge setup fees, which is, you know, a lot of white label providers do charge that. So they have the monthly cost, you pay them, and then they charge a setup. We don't charge setup fees. So that's another thing we have to do to just kind of protect ourselves, you know, in the beginning at least. So
got it. So I want to transition into the services you provide, but drawing a very clear line into what you don't provide as well, and how you guys have made that decision. Because obviously, as you've grown, like your prices are incredible, like for the level of, you know, North American fulfillment that you have. How have you decided what to offer and what not to offer? And, you know, for those who may be thinking, oh, I just come to Agency Elevation and they do everything for me. What is it that you do and what is it that you don't do?
Yeah. So on the SEO side, We do pretty much everything. And so that originally it didn't start out that way. We ended up having to add things over time. But what we do now is like on the SEO, it's hard to do piecemeal. You know, it's hard to be like, hey, let's only do your website and not your Google My Business or Google Business Profile listing, or vice versa. Let's only do that and let's ignore your website. And so over time, we've kind of shifted our model. But on the SEO side, we're pretty much full service now, including we have our own in-house content team. So we have full-time writers on staff for doing things like blog posts and website content and doing those types of things for clients, in addition to making sure, like on the SEO side, we fully optimize the website. We scan it for technical SEO, and we have developers who can fix technical issues. We help with the site speed performance now. That's a ranking factor on the local side is if your site performs poorly on mobile and desktop, you know, Google may rank you less based on that. So, you know, having clients having the ability to come to us and say, hey guys, I have this client, his website's really bad and really slow. Can you help? And then like we used to say, no, we can't. And then that doesn't, you know, bode well when we're trying to have a deep partnership. So we said, okay, we have developers now who can actually go into the website, make it faster. So on the SEO side, we do everything, you know, keyword research and optimizing the maps listing, the website, link building, content creation, blog posting. So we're really full service on that end. And because you just have to be now with what everybody's offering on that side. And I'll let Eric speak to the paid ad side.
Yeah, excuse me, getting over a cold, as I mentioned to Keaton before we got on here. For paid ads, the easy way to remember what we do and don't do is, or where the lines are drawn. So we do all work within the ad platforms. So anything that occurs in Google or Facebook or TikTok within the walls of those platforms, so to speak, we own and handle. So like for a new client, you know, setup of the account, campaigns, if it's Facebook, ad sets, ads, copy, creative, audiences, you name it. Same thing with Google and TikTok. So the only things that we, you know, kind of just some other things that like common things that would fall outside of that the agency would be responsible for would be like for Google ads, like call tracking. If you're using that, which you should be, we recommend CallRail, or you can use Twilio and Go High Level, or there's a million others. So like you would have your own, I'll just use CallRail as an example. You'd have your own CallRail account, and then you would handle that. Landing pages we provide now. So that was something we didn't used to provide, but that is now provided. So it's like an add-on to our normal service. So that's not something you would need to do. If you're using a landing page for you need it for Google ads. And if you're using one for Facebook, we can do that too. And just like anything else third party, like Go High Level, for example, again, or like a CRM or any type of nurture automation sequence follow-up type stuff. And then I don't know if David mentioned this, client communication though. So like I alluded to this too earlier in the call, but that's by definition what white label means. So your client doesn't know we exist. So we're in the background doing our thing, and they think that we are your team, which we are really, right? Because you'd be paying us to do the work for your team. So I should note though, that another thing with us that I think is different from a lot of others is that even the things we don't technically do, we are still there for you for. Meaning like if you have a question about anything, like, you know, we really go above and beyond. Like, you know, hey, I'm not sure my call rail is set up right, or the numbers are swapping on the landing page. Like, would you guys mind giving me the insight? Or placing conversion tracking tag or the Facebook pixel on a website or a landing page. Like, we don't just like dump the pixel off to you in Slack and good luck, you know, like we're there to help you make sure it gets implemented properly. So we provide just big picture across the board, just a lot of consultative and strategic type help. It's almost like of course, like foundationally what we're paid to do is to run the ads and do the SEO, but there's almost like this inherent, it's kind of like being in like a mini mastermind, if you will, with us really. Like, I don't mean to say that too, like, you know, to stretch that too far, but just in the sense that like, you could ask us anything. We work with hundreds of agencies, and we just, anything at all that's going on in the world of marketing agencies or, you know, Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, we're privy to, and we just see so much. So we really want to help because we all have the same interest, right?
Yeah.
If you keep a client, we keep a client. If you gain a client, we gain a client if you're working with us. So we'll do everything we possibly can to help.
Very cool. And I've experienced that in a big way. Like, we're very new to landing pages at my agency and new to Google ads as well, which you guys have helped us break into. It's been an awesome new stream and like new testing ground for us. And I was like, thought I knew how to do landing pages, like was pretty sure, but sent it over to your team and had somebody audit it and was like, okay, cool. here's a couple suggestions and here's what we did right. We can implement these things in the future. And just kind of helped me rest easy because even though, I've been in marketing for 4 or 5 years now, just going into a new platform, it's a little scary. Like you don't know if you're doing all the SOPs right. You don't know, if everything's set up correctly. And so having you guys there to hold our hand when necessary was a big help in helping us make that jump. One thing I want to that I didn't plan on asking, but is coming to mind now as we talk. What level, kind of twofold. First of all, what level of training do the ad buyers on your team have, or the SEO specialists on your team have? How does that work? Do you make sure that they have a level of experience before they're brought on and then put them through your training? Are there beginners that come on and come through your training? And then also, when I bring a client to you guys, what level of touch points, like how often are you checking the account that I'm showing you? And how much, based on like the hours or the number of times you'll check and improve the campaign, how much do you care in those numbers, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. So we, in terms of team member training experience, we have a blend. We have, of course, many that we've hired from marketing agencies or marketing departments within companies.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some too that we've hired that have been just really smart, like all the right fits, right? And you'll see a lot of companies across all different industries, whether marketing agencies or not, have blends of, employees in these ways. Like some of our best team members, though, are ones we hired early on in the company that didn't, like, just personal, connections we had and things that didn't have Google Ads experience per se, right? Or Facebook ads or whatever. And they were just team members though that we felt had, like I said, all the right intangibles and just the qualities that we felt like could make them really good. So yeah, we have a blend, but I mean, anyone that's working on an account, like for a client, is someone who's gone through vast amounts of training. I mean, one of the things we've been able to do over the years now is doing this for so long and working with so many ad accounts and so many SEO campaigns and having so many team members now is we just have really well built out SOPs, standard operating procedures, and libraries of information and kind of how-tos. So to the point that, I mean, I think we have whether, because a lot of times too, like you hire someone away from another agency, and this is also true in any other industry on earth, like sometimes you have to like reteach them things because like that agency may not do it the way you do it, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to run Google ads or Facebook ads or SEO in particular. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. So yeah, just processes. And that would be a suggestion I would, perhaps obvious, but that I would suggest to any newer agency or any agency of any size is just make sure it's better to do it early on in your days than like figuring this out when you have like 30, 40, 50 clients, but really just kind of processing everything, trying to standardize as much as you can. It's challenging for us in the white label space because we don't work with just one industry. Like say if you just work with orthodontics or chiropractors or things like that. But and then to your question of investment, like what we're doing. So now it seems like inevitably it's almost like, every day there's something in terms of what we're doing for the agency. If it's not our work in the account, which from an ad standpoint, and SEO too, we're in there every single week of the year. So like with ads, it's not like we're only optimizing like once a month or whenever we feel like it, or there's like this quota. It's at least weekly. Sometimes we get asked like, well, do you optimize every day in the ad account? It's like, you don't want to over optimize either, because you want to make sure that the optimizations you perform have time to take, like that you're able to accrue a statistically significant sample size with which to make subsequent decisions on. But the Slack access though that agencies have to us leads to, in many cases, like daily communication back and forth about kind of what's going on, questions, things we're seeing, et cetera. So it's extremely hands-on. It's predictable in the sense that it's every week. The SEO is not like it's more of like a monthly deliverable, because a lot of what happens with SEO is like, content writing and backlink building and title tags and things. It's not like as fire drill like as ads can be, right? Like if an ad isn't performing, turn it off, hurry up, do something different. Like SEO is more methodical, but both are worked on rigorously.
Cool. Very cool. David, anything to add there?
Not really. I mean, it's just, we're doing so much behind the scenes too. So it's like, there's so many components and pieces to one SEO campaign. We have like I think the average SEO campaign gets touched by 6 or 7 different people on our side, right? Like there's the SEO specialist who is overseeing everything and like handling some of the on page. They might be talking to a developer to handle some of the technical. The GMB/GBP expert is usually somebody else, but working underneath the specialist to make sure that, you know, all the same keywords and everything are targeted properly. Then you have a writer who's writing content that we're going to use to build links. And then the guy who might fix the site speed is a different person. And then you got somebody else maybe handling reporting. And then you have our SEO director who's overseeing everybody to make sure that everything works together. So there's so much that goes into it behind the scenes. We're in there, you know, way more than weekly. And then additionally, we get so many requests in Slack, which is a big part of it. And we do a lot of custom stuff like, hey, can you help me with this? Or can you fix this? And so our team tries to go above and beyond to do what we can. We try not to say no. That's an internal model we have. So sometimes, you know, it's so egregious where we're like, I'm sorry, that's way out of scope. But we try to really help our partners because we want them to be, you know, taken care of. And we try to meet all their needs in-house the best we can. So
yeah, very cool. And that leads me to a follow-up question there. How did you decide on your pricing? It's so good. Like it's so good. And I've had people quote me like 1,000, 1,500 for the white label cost. And obviously they're like more direct to consumer and they're like, or direct to client. And they're like, yeah, if you wanted to resell my stuff, it would be this. But I just don't, and I haven't looked at a ton of other white label companies, to be honest, but I don't see anybody doing the quality, the quantity, the above and beyond, and the wealth of experience, the library of, you know, advertising and SEO knowledge from sounds like 15 plus years of experience. I don't see anybody doing it, and I don't see anybody doing it at the price point you guys are offering it at. How did you decide on that?
So a couple things on that. Kind of over time, our pricing has shifted a little bit, not significantly, but, you know, just minor tweaks to it.
Yeah.
We early on realized that we wanted to, our goal wasn't to be like a lot of our other white label providers. They don't work with large agencies, 99% of them. They have agencies that have a handful of clients. And so when you're only dealing with agencies that have a handful of clients, you typically do need to charge more, which is why we have our minimum, because if you just have one campaign and if that agency has one client, they're brand new to it. And so they ask a lot of questions. There's more interaction. There's more resources being expended on our side. It's not that you don't want to work with them. It's just that we early on, because of our relationship, had to work with agencies that had, you know, 50 accounts, 100 accounts. We now have agencies that are, you know, 8-figure agencies that we do, you know, we run 500-600 ad accounts for one agency, right? And we have a lot of agencies like those. So the pricing has to be competitive with in-house, because when you get to that scale, when you have 500 or 600 ad accounts, right, and you're doing 8 figures of your revenue, whether you're paying, you know, 199 or 149 an account versus 300 an account is significant. Whereas it's not as significant when you have 3 or 4 or 5 accounts. And so we have to be competitive with in-house pricing. Otherwise, there's no reason for a lot of these medium and large size agencies to use us, because for them, it comes down to a numbers game. Even if the results might be, you know, less than we can get, they're willing to do that trade-off if they can save, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. And so we made that decision early on that we wanted to be competitive with in-house. And that's been a large part of our success, is because we get a lot of agencies that do come to us and say, we're having trouble fulfilling. We can't do it. We can't find people, or so-and-so quit. So-and-so put their 2 weeks in. We don't even know how to find somebody. We need help. It's going to come out to be almost a wash at the end of the day. And then we come in and they're very, very happy because we're able to give them a very streamlined service that's better than in-house experience.
Yeah.
At equivalently the same price or right around there. So that's kind of the main driver behind that, to be completely honest. Cool. I'd love to charge $1,000 a month for an SEO campaign and make a lot more money, but we have to be competitive with what we're delivering, what others in the marketplace are delivering. I do believe we are the cheapest by far, especially when you consider that we're USA based instead of overseas.
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting because you're like really competitive on the huge client side, but you're also staying very competitive on the small client side because you have to compete with the other white label companies there, right? Very interesting. Anything to add there, Eric?
No, I think David summed it up. I would just, I guess the only thing to add would just be to elaborate that we, kind of one way to tell if a white label provider is legit or not. I mean, there's many ways to tell, but one thing that I always like laugh about is if, like we'll get asked, like we kind of like you mentioned, were you guys really that good? Like you're charging so little, like how are you that good for the rate? And it's like this other, this other provider down the street, they're charging $12.50 a month. It's like immediately tells me the one charging $12.50 a month doesn't have big clients.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like they just, that's why our pricing is kind of, but like on the low end, like you mentioned, we're trying to, we want to partner with agencies for the long term. Like that's kind of our whole thing, right? We're not like some warehouse where we just churn clients in and out. We want to partner with agencies. This is why we pour in all strategic consultative type help. We want to get them to where they are looking to go and then be with us for a long time. And we don't want our pricing on the low end either, though, to be like on the high end, like David covered, it needs to be at a certain place. But even on the lower end, we don't want to be prohibitive to the agency getting up off the ground, right? Because if you're a brand new agency, you have a lot of things going on. You're not just trying to spend on fulfillment. You're probably trying to figure out 1,000 other things. You're paying for courses. You maybe don't even have much money, right? Because you're just getting started. So that's, we have the 1,000 minimum, like we covered, to at least have that like threshold of doing business. But yeah, it's worked for us. I mean, it's not perfect. I don't think any pricing model is perfect, but it's where we've, at least as of this second, kind of arrived after many years of iterating and trial and error.
Very cool. I love it because it's not just like you're catering to the guy that might have no clients now, but could blow up in the next 6 months with you. Like you're allowing him to get in at a price that makes sense for him or her, but you're also, equipped to handle these massive agencies that and be competitive with what they could do with an in-house team, which is very cool.
Well, and I think something to quickly add to that is, earlier Eric was mentioning like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 ad accounts or whatever is $3.99. We have tiered pricing. So as you scale and grow, the price actually gets cheaper per account. So it's kind of a unique model too, where as you scale and grow and partner with us, you're going to have better margins long-term with us. They don't get worse, they get better. And that's something you don't typically see in most of the white labels out there. They're not giving you tiered pricing because here's the package, here's the price, that's it, right? We're trying to scale and grow with you. And we understand as you get more accounts, margins become a considerably more important topic, right? When you have 50 accounts, 100, et cetera. So I think that's something unique too, is that knowing that the pricing gets cheaper is a huge benefit to wanting to grow and scale with us.
Oh, definitely. I was like, we're on the cusp kind of with you guys to the point where it would go down from like 300 to 200 an account. And I was like, man, like if I get 5 more, it's cheaper than if I get 2 more. So I may as well get the 5 more. And then that's encouraged me as we've seen the data, as we've seen the success, to be like, yeah, let's pass it over to these guys. Let's pass it over. And it's a smart, it speaks to what Eric said, that you want to partner with people for the long term. It's designed for that.
Not to go on and on this, but it's a big topic. So with agencies, we see like, I mean, again, we've covered this at length, like on the higher end, if you have 200 ad accounts, like you're only going to pay so much. But back though, on the lower end, like the other thing is, if you're a newer agency, say we charged like 800 a month per account, if you had between 1 to 5 clients, right? The lower, like the newer agencies who only have between 1 to 5 clients, if they're that new and those are the only clients they have, do they even have the ability to command, a monthly retainer of 1,500 a month or something, right? Like some reasonable margin that would even be able to be placed on top of 800 a month. So that's the other thing too, we're trying to take into account. The newer agencies can't, we're trying to work, like we see, like this is arbitrary. We usually see like $750 a month for just Google ads or just Facebook ads. Some of these agencies are getting away with charging, like if they're newer. But yeah, like you can't, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but like if you're a new agency and you're starting out, you're knocking on doors, like, are you getting people to pay you $2K a month to run ads? Maybe agencies out there are, but it's, if you are, you might get them, you might sign someone up there, but are they going to stick with you,
Yes,
like early on if anything gets rough? So we're trying to consider all scenarios.
Cool.
And lastly, from a partnership standpoint, like this isn't just all to like, BS, like, oh, they're saying like they really care about partnering. Like David mentioned, like we'd love to charge more, but we don't because of all these reasons. Same thing with us being in the US. So you know how much more money David and I would have if our team wasn't in the US, and we have a multiple millions of dollars a year payroll.
Yeah.
If we were elsewhere, wouldn't be true. So for us, it's like, we're just trying to do really high quality work. We're trying to help agencies and we're passionate about that. And we've foregone profit for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because there are some huge white label companies that are not in the US and probably pay a fraction of what we pay. So
yeah. Yeah, it's impressive. It's commendable. I think it shows like the value, if you guys were to sell one day, or I don't know what your plans are, just that library you've built and like the SOPs, you could I feel like you could cut that off and sell it for millions of dollars. Um, you know, just the quality and the SOPs and the um effort that you've put in to build something that can really help not only agencies but small businesses it's I think unparalleled. So excellent job, guys.
thank you.
Yeah. So I want to go into a couple kind of trends that you guys are seeing because you have such a good pulse on uh the agency market, the small business market. If you were an agency starting in 2022, 2023, what would you look at when it comes to selecting an industry to go into, a niche to pick, and then also a service to provide to them?
Yeah, so we get asked this question a lot. It's a good question. I would say we kind of group the industries and verticals into three different areas typically.
Okay.
The first is health, medical, right? Like that, and that would fall under like dentists, orthodontists, chiropractors, pain specialists, right? All that, LASIK, you name it, right? All those types of fields, which are the reason we say that's number one is just because those industries and those businesses are used to paying for marketing budgets. They have funds and money available for marketing. And sure, they're a little harder to get in front of because there's, really good gatekeepers and things like that. So it's kind of harder to break into those versus like a guy who does roofing. It's a lot easier to get a hold of the business owner. But we see that being like the most successful, right? Like we see a lot in health and medical, and that's a large chunk of where we see a lot of success. They're also charging higher fees, right? Like to get braces done, $5,000 or Invisalign, or for dentistry, if you're doing implants and things like that, these are a higher ticket items. So it's much easier for you as an agency to retain them and show an ROI and a positive value because they're not selling like a $20 book where you got to sell 2,000 of those a month to show a profit or a margin on what they're paying you.
Yeah.
The second industry that is kind of like legal, right? And there's a lot underneath that. And then I would say the third is like home services, which would be anything like concrete and roofing and siding and bathroom remodelers and, anything related to that. And we see a lot of success there. And so those are not bad industries, but just know that you may not be able to sell the same retainer that you could sell to a surgeon or an orthodontist or a dentist or a chiropractor that you could to somebody who is doing, siding replacement or roofing. It's just, there's a difference there. But it's also easier then to get into the home services market and what we see. So we work with agencies all over the place. And I think those three are the best to look at, like if you group them that way in a silo. And I would think the other, kind of like deciding factor is what you have experience in. So a lot of times we see agency owners come from this other life where I was a roofer, I was a contractor, I was a lawyer, an attorney, or I was a dentist or whatever. Leverage your experience that you have as well, because that's going to ultimately help dictate which niche to go into and where you're going to see success. We see a lot of times people who are attorneys that start marketing agencies and they go after law firms. They just have a much easier time relating to other attorneys, selling, getting past gatekeepers, right? Because they have experience in that field. So I would say that's a great starting point. I would say the biggest thing is definitely you want to pick a specific focus and niche down. So if, don't go too broad. I think what a lot of people do, and the big mistake we see, is people tend to go too broad where they're like, I just want to do attorneys in general. You're actually better off. Why not just do bankruptcy attorneys, or why not do family law attorneys? Because the more specific you get, it's much easier to become the expert in that niche. And it's much easier to get headway into selling clients and positioning yourself as an authority. Whereas if I just say, hey guys, I'm Joe Blow marketing agency and we do work for everybody. What's different about you? How do you stand out? And how are you going to get that client to sign up with you when there's nothing special about you? But if I come in and I say, you're a family law attorney, this is, John Doe family law attorney marketing experts. We only work with family law attorneys, and we're the experts because we know everything about family law, and here's what we do different. It's much easier to establish that value than trying to be something to everybody.
Yeah.
And so all of the training programs that we've seen and we're a part of in masterminds, I mean, niching down is super important. So I just say, don't go too broad. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Eric, what thoughts do you have there?
I think David covered that one.
Cool.
Yeah, not much to add there. And I also want to allow time for a couple more questions. I know we're coming up on time. So
smart. So going into services, actually a follow-up question to you, David. You had those 3 silos of legal, medical, home services. Is it just that you think those are the best, or those are the majority of agency owners you see succeeding with you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely the majority. I want to say too, those are kind of broad silos. So I want to say 95% of all industries fall into one of those 3 typically. Sure, you might get some obscure one oh, we sell waste products to chemical research labs or something. But those are obviously probably not an industry you're going to go after. We just try to make it simple. We broke up those 3. Those are definitely the industries that we see almost every agency fall into one of those 3 buckets.
Okay.
And with the success we see success in all of them. But I want to say broadly, we see the most success in health and medical.
Interesting.
And I think it's because everything is high ticket. Those businesses are used to spending money, and it's blowing up. I mean, if you look at how much money goes into healthcare every year, it's significantly more year over year. And thus there's more need for needing to stand out. So it makes sense to have a marketing agency in that sea of competition.
Got it.
One other quick note. Sorry, I was going to add that this, I know, flies in the face of conventional how to build your agency wisdom, but others may disagree, but I don't think it's bad either to just go after different industries if you have you have to have some angle though. And so it could even just be starting out locally and just if you say you're in a city, and especially if you're well connected in the city and you know a lot of people, a lot of business owners. We work with some really large agencies who are kind of like a general agency. They're not in any particular industry. Now, there's pros and cons, certainly. It can be harder to grow. It can be harder to have processes and SOPs and standardization because every client is different. That's what we deal with. But there are some big pros too. You can grow more quickly in a lot of ways if you're able to sign up a lot of different types of businesses. And the other thing is risk mitigation. So you're a lot more diversified across a lot of different industries. So I'm not saying don't go just down one lane, but that is optimal. If you're looking for the quickest and easiest path to get to being a viable agency, that is the way to go, right? Pick a niche.
Yeah.
But just something to consider. I don't think it's bad to go the other route either.
No, yeah.
Maybe a little more work, but it's also too why you should. I was going to say too, it's why you should do SEO and Google ads and Facebook ads and websites and do different things too, because it's just like investing, you really want to be diversified. You don't, if you only do chiropractic and you only do Facebook ads, there are a lot of things that can put you out of business quickly. Say Facebook ads goes belly up or chiropractic goes belly up, or, you want to kind of be eating out of a lot of different pots.
Yeah. Very smart.
And you're also easier to get ripped. You're easier to be ripped off, meaning if you're in chiropractic and you only do Facebook ads and some other agency knows the funnel you're running, it's what is that unique about you? I can mimic your funnel. I can mimic the types of ads you run. I can go find chiropractic. So anyway, both are viable, but just something to consider.
Yeah. It's like transferring from a one-trick pony to a real agency that makes that a long-term thing. I love it. What myths do you guys see, or what tips do you have in your individual realms and paid ads for Eric and for SEO and David's end? The average person that doesn't know much about marketing, or even the person who has run an agency but has misconceptions or myths still stuck in their head about either of these methods of advertising, what's the most common you see come up?
So I'm trying to think. I would say on the SEO side is just that, number one, you can't get results for everybody as quick as they want, right? So I would say the largest like myth on SEO is like, if you just optimize something, it's going to, appear and rank the next day. There's so much that goes into that. Like, for example, one client could come to us where they already rank on page one and we're just moving them up the page, right? So they're going to see success quicker than somebody who comes to us and says, I don't even have a website, or it's a brand new website and I want to rank in New York City for dentists. Well, you can want that and you can wish for that, and it's just going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so I would say the biggest myth is just getting fast results or guaranteed results on the SEO side is hard to convey sometimes. And that's the one area where it's a little tricky with being white label is, we tell every agency owner, hey, like tell people 3 to 6 months, right? Like that's our standard time to see results. Doesn't mean you'll be number one, but it means you'll within 3 to 6 months, you should see like some substantial results from our efforts.
Yeah.
It should be very visible, trackable, and repeatable. But that doesn't mean you're going to be number one and they're going to rank number one, or they're going to double their business in one. So like on the SEO side, that's the biggest myth I see is like, oh, if you just do the optimizations, you'll get guaranteed rankings. It just isn't that clean cut with Google's algorithms. So that's the main thing I see. Also, the SEO industry is plagued with people offering guarantees and, we'll rank you in 30 days. And so people are very, very bitter coming into it. And so it's harder to sell that sometimes because they've been burned before, probably by an SEO company. It's kind of a saturated market, unfortunately.
Yeah. Eric?
I would say I think the biggest like service specific myth would be that anything Google should be kind of an afterthought or secondary to Facebook. Like seems like every marketing agency training program in America right now in the world is like Facebook, or TikTok now, like social. Because I think social too, it seems like a lot of people starting marketing agencies are younger. Like I guess any business, right? Like, would trend younger than like an 80-year-old starting a business compared to a 20-year-old. But I think younger people though are just like, especially like those in their 20s right now, they just like, they grew up with social media and it's just like, they're on it all the time. And they just think like, oh, social media. David and I think a lot of times feel like we're not old, we're in our 30s, but we feel like dinosaurs sometimes because like David and I our backgrounds, as we've mentioned, are very deeply David's SEO. And then me for ads, like I go the furthest back in Google ads, like more so than Facebook. And that's because Google ads has been around longer, right? But we just see that all the time. Like, it's just like, oh, should I do SEO? Or, Keaton, we've talked to you about this. Like, should I do SEO? Should I do Google ads? Like, yeah, you should. Like, if you think about it, if you have an option, and we do a ton of it, like we're huge up for Facebook ads, right? We do a ton of it. So I'm not crapping on Facebook ads, but like, if you run a Facebook ad, like, and this is obvious, it's really top of funnel, right? It works well. You get a lot of leads, typically at a low cost, but anyone on Facebook isn't looking for what you are doing, most likely, right? Or at least they're not like indicating they are behind perhaps like how they're browsing, which I know Facebook's algorithm takes into account, but like, it's amazing to me, like sometimes the explanations needed to convince not only an agency owner, but like for them, their client to be like the light bulb to go off with ads and SEO and why it makes a lot of sense. Like, people are, I mean, it always blows my mind. People are literally searching Google for what you do. Like, they are on a silver platter. Like, I mean, it couldn't be any more straightforward. Like, I type into Google, orthodontist near me. What on earth do you think that person wants? Like, they want to go get braces.
Yeah.
So like, it's crazy. So I think for me, that's the biggest myth is that like SEO or, SEO and Google ads should be like secondary or things like you consider as you grow. Like, I mean, the other thing with SEO, I don't know, that's a myth, but there's no ad spend associated with it. So like when you run Google and Facebook ads, you're right off the top. We're losing money as the agency. It's going right into Google and Facebook's pocket. We don't get a cut of that. Neither does the agency owner. With SEO, there's no lost money, so to speak, to a third party, right? It's just like you pay us and then, your client pays you. It also offers opportunity for higher margin. So for the agency selling SEO, knowing, because your client only has a finite amount of money to spend, right? So with ads, you're definitely losing money compared to what you could be making given what has to go to Facebook and Google. So anyway, I would just say that there are times, of course, it makes sense to lead with social, but I would just like more critically look at that and not just assume that, SEO and Google Ads. And we see this too. It's been a big edge for us really over the years, is that the knowledge around Google Ads and SEO is so minuscule
Yes.
compared to what most people know about Facebook ads.
Yes.
We meet so many people who are like, oh, we know everything about Facebook ads. But then like SEO and Google Ads, they know nothing.
Yeah, I think it's because it's sexier. It's like, oh, look at this. I launched it today and you have 5 leads.
Right.
And like, 4 of those leads are like not even going to pick up the phone
Right.
sometimes. Some areas are better than others. And my agency is obviously built off of Facebook ads, but like the Google ads are less sexy, but more reliable. It's like the workhorse versus show horse example and Good to Great. Like it just does the work.
Right. And you want all of it. Like I said, I can't stress that enough. It's not like ideally it's on the channel. You're not just doing back to my diversification comments. They all work. We do a ton of Facebook ads.
Yeah.
A ton. So it's just, you ideally want to have all of it. So anyway.
Yeah, great perspective. I love that. Well, guys, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to say? Where can people find you? And any other last parting words?
I would just say the main thing is, if people are looking for us, you can find us on our website is the best place, agencyelevation.com. We have all of our pricing on there. We have information on our services. So if you feel like it's a good fit for you, just go on there and submit the form, and then we'll get in touch with you right away. It's Eric and I who respond. So you won't be dealing or passed off to some sales guy. You'll be dealing with Eric and I directly if you have any questions or things like that. That's probably the easiest way. And then a big thanks to Keaton for having us on here. We were excited to be here today. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about, all these different things and aspects of white label and growing an agency. And if there's anything we can do, just let us know.
Okay, will do. Thanks, guys. Eric, anything?
Yeah, just thank you again for the opportunity. As David mentioned, agencyelevation.com, and want to shout out Keaton as well, not only for the opportunity we had to be here today, but just we do work with so many agencies. I don't say I have to brag, I say that because we see a lot, like good, bad, ugly, everything. And Keaton, definitely listen to Keaton. He's a very smart guy, very considerate, runs a great agency, does everything the right way. So definitely make sure you're tuning into anything he puts out.
Appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you guys. Okay, take care, guys.
Hey, thanks, Keaton. Have a good one. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.